A lot of people use the courts to decide one way or another to determine that who has the victory. And I think the idea is that people go running away with their tail in between their leg. But the courts get things wrong all the time. We have people that are wrongfully prosecuted. We have people that have spent, life sentences in prison because they were convicted of a crime they didn't commit. And the thing is that there is bigger infrastructure over our heads. There's bigger infrastructure in our hearts, around us. It's like, imagine like you're living inside of like a lava lamp of principalities and powers, as the Bible calls it. And you're choosing to operate within, a blob comes along and possesses you, and you're choosing to like operate within that thing, right? And you are privileging members of that system through your interaction in it. You're giving them power, you're giving them authority. My sociology teacher at Wake Tech taught me that we give people authority. Authority isn't taken, it's given. And so think of it kind of like an investment. So like we're investing in this system to do things like this. And if they give you a win and then you take it into your heart, you spread that information out in the environment that you won, you're part of this system that is determining what a win is, regardless if it's right or wrong, regardless if there's more to be known. So I don't take people to court. I feel that I suffer more than other people, and I get trampled more than other people. And you have people come by with these demonic looks in their eyes, and they make statements about what you should do in life, or you get what you get out of life, or whatever. It's some kind of like flimsy statement that is born from, if you can only look at 3 points at one time, it seems like it's true, and it's just not true. The fact is that we're constantly transforming our environment, and we have to stay within powers that are going to transform it the best, and I believe that's Jesus Christ. And by doing what Jesus Christ said to do, we bless them that curse you and pray for them that despitefully use you, we can come to much superior outcomes than all of the powers fighting in the world that transform the environment into heaven on earth. Eventually, the more that we work, and that was actually, if you look at what Jesus said, we have to set the table. After the master sits down, we're still setting the table. In the age to come, we will not be married or given in marriage, but will be like the angels in heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within you and among you. The least of what you've done to the least of them, you've done to me. If we suffer or die with him, I think it's suffer with him, we'll reign with him. So essentially, it's this paradigm where, in Jesus, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then, a little bit further on, we beheld His glory, the glory of the only begotten Son of God. So Jesus Christ is the Word of God. Which is funny is that I've never, it's not funny. Well, it's kind of funny. It's interesting. It's just mind blowing. But if you look at this, I've never met Jesus from Nazareth that I know of. As far as I know, he went to space. That's to my understanding. They saw him going up in the sky. If you keep going up in the sky, you go to space. So I just think that, maybe Jesus is first in the space race amongst humanity. I read what he said, right? And I can become synchronized with this real person's will by reading what he said and believing it and doing it when I'm looking out in the environment. Each situation that approaches me, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bless them and curse you, pray for them that spitefully use you. I'm not going to deny somebody that asks to borrow something. Someone asked me to go 1 mile, I'm going to go 2. I'm going to work on this thing where he said, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it will obey you. So essentially, according to by today's knowledge, what he's saying is that you can talk to plants and, have some kind of genetic modification there, and it's going to become mobile somehow. I don't know if that's walking by the roots, which there is a tree that does that, and walk and become a sea plant, or if it's going to fly through the air. I don't know. It's something that I'm actually working on, though. I'm thinking that it might walk. He says this is the target. I think he's being literal. I don't. Some people try to downgrade this, and I think they're really doing a disservice to everyone, especially when they talk to me about it and use my first name and Adam. Dude, don't use my name like that. Do not say my name like that. You sound like a pervert. Do not say my name like that. Freaking hate that pisses me off. Anyhow, I don't want that crap inside of me. That's what it is. It's like, because you took like basically this road where you don't have to believe it, and something else took over, and now that's talking to me, and it's kind of a pervert, and it says my name in like this perverted way that's like trying to molest my heart. Don't say my name like that. While I was there, I wanted to say that. So I believe he's being literal, but the perspective people have to be able to use their intent and use their body like that, they're not right with God, and so they still need to work on. If you work on that target, you're getting closer to being right with God, to be able to get there. So we have these words, and we're basically synchronizing ourselves with Jesus, Yeshua, and that we are transforming the environment according to these models, right? And so that's why I don't take people to court. It started off, it's because like there's this verse in the Bible. It started off I think it was Paul that said that he's just like reprimanding people, that brothers taking brother to court. It was a lot more serious back then, back in Rome. Now at this time, Christianity has modified a lot of the way people operate towards the better. And in many sense, we are kind of going to the church when we take people to court. But I still don't do it because I just feel that there are superior outcomes to be had by, instead of letting a court decide to fix the problem that is actually happening in society, regardless of how big it sounds. If you need to innovate towards what Jesus said, that eventually all things will come to light, and innovate towards eventually all things will come to light to solve the problem. And to me, it feels kind of like being an insect being pinned down, and you have people that are possessed by these energies that are pinning you down, proud of themselves and who they are. But if you just take it, and that's what I've been doing, so I can talk, without being an actor. You just take it, just keep fighting the way that Jesus said to fight. Is that you have these magical outcomes, these big outcomes, where things are transforming around you, because it's like that power of Jesus is just crushing everything around you, and you may feel like this dark feeling in your heart, like someone's molesting your heart, but you just stay there and you keep doing it, and you keep praying, and you pray for things. This is something that I discovered in the midst of all this, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I think humanity, we're all kind of connected. I think that we're all kind of stacked up on top of each other in like a fourth dimension, maybe like we're back here in the fifth dimension, and then there's information in the fourth dimension that we're gaining a hold of. But basically what happened is that I was laying in bed, and I was under a lot of stress about a lot of things at one time, and I had this vision that someone was like underneath me, and like they were like there the entire time. They were like with me, right? And they were just like synchronized with me. And I'm telling you this because what I said, that we may be all stacked up on top of each other, if it's true, we're going to be able to prove it very soon. Very soon. And it's just going to be like a normal science, like the science of the human tensor. I was calling it the human matrix, but I saw this video on TikTok. This mathematician. I'm not, like I'm technically a mathematician because the way my mind works. I'm doing math, but I'm not like a mathematician professionally. It's not what I do. So I can get things wrong vocabulary even though I'm getting the math right. So anyhow, she was like, we're a tensor. So every time I'm saying matrix, I'm supposed to be saying tensor because the matrix is 2-dimensional. I'm speaking of something that could have many dimensions. So basically that's what I'm telling you, because I want to give, if there's someone else involved in like helping me with problems I'm having in life, I think there might, like, people might be really in tune with this, like there would be called psychics. I don't know very much about psychics. I grew up in a Worldwide Church of God, and that kind of stuff was very strongly condemned. Even though me and my friend Adam Thomas studied a lot of different things, it was just kind of on a different level for me because science was my outlet, not psychics. And so I studied psychics and stuff, psychic energy, from the perspective of the scientific method, ESP and telekinesis and mind over matter, all that stuff from the perspective of scientific method. So what I was doing is science. Actual psychics have like this entire world that I don't know. I haven't looked into it very well. So I just think that God, if someone is staying with something for so long, it can be a mix, but overall, that I think that you're going to be like doing something that's healthy for you, doing something that's unhealthy for you, and feedback loops are going to kind of correct it along the way. So it's going to become more and more refined. Maybe you veer off through motivated reasoning and like you don't really ever admit that something was wrong, but simultaneously the human mind has a way of abstracting experiences. So these symbolisms and things they could use could represent things that they all understand, that are describing physical phenomenon in a way that they understand it. So I want to be able to give psychics credit in case this is proven, that we're all kind of stacked up on top of each other, and that I have people helping me. So someone was laying underneath me, like I can like see them in my mind, right? Because I just have all this chaos in my mind all the time. And then they open their eyes like this, and then it was like they were waiting, and then they were paying attention to like forces that were coming against me and a lot of people. And then they opened their eyes, and when they opened their eyes, light came out of their eyes, and I had all this information flooded in my head, and I had a vision. And in this vision, there was something happening that would never happen. But I work in mathematical and scientific and engineering models, and my head is just like straight engineering, just engineering as my first language. Vectors and matrices and tensors and the flow of logic, diagrams. So it basically, like, I'm looking at something, I'm like, that's good, but that would never happen. But the context and like the scene and the energy and everything, it was like it was like Earth was becoming an incubator, like love itself. God was making Earth an incubator of just like little precious eggs inside of their incubator of love, and we were becoming something else. Like everything inside of us was being refined so much that we were transitioning to what Jesus called the age to come. and light was just, it was like light everywhere. And I saw a scene and of something that would never happen, and it would never happen here. Now, if we progress what Jesus said, if we take these points and say, okay, humanity has succeeded with this, humanity succeeds with this, 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 down, 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 which actually represents what I was seeing with like the light coming over everything. This actually would happen. But it's not something that I can speak of because people may find it extremely offensive, even though it's actually extremely beautiful and righteous. And it's the way things should be. And so what I realized is that in all of this, my brain took it and said, okay, so we can have like these points in the future. They're like targets in the future. If we're calculating everything correctly, it has to be correct. It has to be according to the narrow way. And you have to get it right. That we come to an outcome, and you have to, it's getting it right means you understand why it's there, right? Even though you may not be able to talk about it to all of the rest of society, you may not be able to speak openly to your church, you have to understand why it's there. And that's what it means to get it right. And it has to be right. So you take these outcomes and you basically pray for that outcome. I use the Lord's Prayer because what Jesus said. That's also something the Catholic Church does. I'm not Catholic. I just believe that it's kind of like a mantra, and I believe, what he said, that God already knows what you want. So, you can pray this, and it gives me something to, like, while I'm focusing on, praying this mantra, and it's God's will. God knows what I want. God knows way more than I know, right? So we're asking with this in mind, this outcome in mind. Now I'm praying the Lord's Prayer. We're basically taking everything that has to happen in order for that to come true still has to happen. If we're all like struggling around and fighting and warring and then resting and fighting and warring and resting and social revolutions and all this, it could take a very long time. But if you ask God to do the work for you, it can be a very short time. And you pray believing, right? So I basically started praying for what would be called taboo things. Some may even call it immoral things, but it's not. What I'm praying for is not immoral at all. It's just people. I just don't think people would understand it with how rigid they work and trying to basically keep a social rule that was put there because we sense danger in our environment. That rule was put there because of evil, right? So we made a rule. The rule's working, right? But it's a rule that represents imperfection, and then we're given a conscience, and that's what something Paul talked about also. We're given a conscience of imperfection, conscience of sin through the rule, and that's true, right? So, but then here's what people do is they take the rules that are not representing Christianity. They can kind of see how it's kind of like Jesus. It gives them a feeling of homeostasis. It gives them a feeling of home within them, that everything is right. Things need to be like this, right? And that's also representing their conscience. But and Paul says Christ is their conscience. But also Jesus said that if you don't you need to come and visit him when he's sick or in prison. What does that mean? It could be sick or in prison. But also, if you look at it from the perspective that Jesus is the Word of God, now we have another dimension of what sick and in prison means. And so you should go visit Jesus. You understand what I'm saying? So with all that being said, here's what I do. And it seems to me seems like quirky and crazy, like sociologists often are. And I do study social sciences, although I can't formally call myself sociology. I studied sociology subjects a lot all throughout school. But I still can't call myself a sociologist. I just study a lot of different things. A lot of different things. Man, that is so beautiful. Let me show you something. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's as far as it goes. That's beautiful. I like the trees too, though. So, with all that being said, instead of going to court, taking people to court, because if you think about it, you have to. If you're taking people to court, and like I said, I'm kind of not really against it because we're kind of dealing with the church anyway, as much as Jesus has been strung throughout of everything, but we're also kind of not. And if you take people to court and you're trying to sue them, you're like focused there. I have been so busy trying to get things ready for Elite Marketing, this decentralized business model that I'm building for everyone, to basically systematically set the workforce free. I don't want to focus on a lawsuit. I'm just like, trample me, and then they trample me, and trample me, and trample me, and trample me. And it's like, it seems like, you're doing an injustice to the people. People should know about me. When I spend all this time in the work, and then I release in my words out into the world through LinkedIn, through Minds, through TikTok, through Facebook, Mastodon, Blue Sky, and I did all that work, and I come to those conclusions. I come to the apex of all that work, and I give that out. And then, I want people to have it. That's why I'm giving it out. I want it to spread all around, all over the place, everywhere. So I'm closing security vulnerabilities, what I've been doing for the past 7 years. But it's like, it's a multifaceted problem that we're dealing with. You should lead people back to the original author, because you don't know actually what was involved to get there. And so it's kind of like going into someone's wardrobe and checking their clothes and believing, these clothes are made by, Express, or these clothes are made by Structure, or these clothes are made by, whoever, Armani, and so I have a right to them as anyone else is. And so you take their clothes out of their closet, and you start wearing them around, and identify yourself by these clothes, and you just don't lead anybody onto the fact that you're not responsible for their creation, because it's really just a part of a different dynamic where it's more over what you identify with. But people start assuming, because they've never seen that before, those clothes before. Those are nice clothes. Did you make that yourself? And you just don't say anything, right? But then the reality is, the person that you took the clothes from the closet, they actually made those clothes. They didn't come from JCPenney. No, those clothes did not come from JCPenney. JCPenney has some nice clothes. But that's not it. That's not what they sell. So now basically you're non-verbally stealing other people's work through this dynamic that you something that you want to identify with, when they didn't give you permission to take their clothes out of the closet and wear around and just lead people on to believe that they're theirs. And then here's what happens next. Let me tell you what happens next in my experience. After they take something from me, then they have to start trying to intentionally cover me up to save themselves from embarrassment. I can feel this happening because it changes things around me. It's like I have think of it like if your body is feeling with light and better and good health, right? And you try to have everything aligned like this. And then for some reason, there's like this structure growing in society that has something to do with you. And now it's like a shell is coming around you. And it's like an actual like force that you cognitively have to deal with, because you have people spending a lot of money training human minds that they're responsible for this work that they are not responsible for. And if they're responsible for it within the frame of a human being and all the complexity that it takes to be a human being, you can't be, the actual original author can't be responsible for it. On top of the intention to actually put them under the rug to save themselves from embarrassment that they're plagiarizing somebody else's work. So there is just so many problems here. And what I have done, and what I started doing, is praying for taboo things. And it is like I can actually see, it is like people's behaviors just change in front of me, like directly in front of me. You should be able to see this from a data science satellite, looking down from a bird's eye view of all the interactions through social media and everything, because it's massive. It's this massive shift in people's behavior. Like, I just traveled to another dimension because I prayed for taboo things. And God's working all these problems out, right? That. And so, and that feeling in your heart, actually starts going away. And you start feeling like you're somewhere intensely better. And it's like, okay, am I going to take somebody to court? Like, think of it from a perspective of outcomes and actually getting to what you want. Am I going to take somebody to court, or am I going to do that? Right. And, we still have the power of shifting things around. We have things that are not perfectly aligned with heaven. Shifting, this comes shifts here, this comes shift here. Some people has a dramatic, push sales capabilities, shift. It all gets shifted real quickly because they came through. And then now we got to shift it back, right? And so it would be helpful if we were actually able to see through, integrated into the outside environment on our physical devices, what exactly you could see all that, right? So, and this is something I've actually been discussing for a long time. Well, it's been like 4 or 5 years, maybe. I don't know. But it's that I came from the underground. I was a drug addict, and I had drug addict friends and drug dealer friends, and people that, we hung around that were in gangs, and just a lot of, stuff going on. And it's just not all legal. It's a different world. Not everything's illegal. We don't have like illegal things going on around us all the time. Drugs were illegal, but then I came out of that. I walked away from all that in 2003, 4-ish, kind of this crazy thing going on there, where it's kind of walking away, kind of back, what's the word? Back something, and that's when I started trying to come to Jesus, because I knew I was dying inside. I could just feel myself dying, like from the abuse of my body, like literally physically. I was like, I'm going to die if I continue doing this abuse of my body. I'm going to die. I'm going to die in more reasons than one, more than just like an overdose one day. It's like a spiritual death. Like, time is running out on, like God's just saying you can't live your life like this anymore. And so it's time to go. So, okay. So, but through this, I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen a lot of different dynamics in the way that people work. And then I was, I worked for mom and pop companies. I worked for big corporations. I worked as, I've been in management several times throughout all of this. I worked as a software developer for like one internship, one company, then as a freelance consultant and that, I work for multi-million and multi-billion-dollar corporations. So I'm like looking at this from way down here in the underground, and then come back all the way up here where I basically hang out with executives, and that's all who I ever hang out with anymore. Executives and people that are close to executives. And so there's something that goes on. I call it. I named it. His name was Roy, and you had to take a boat to get to his house, and he had the best ganja. People that are in the underground, I think they can immediately identify the framing. But his name was Roy. You had to take a boat to get to his house, and he had the best ganja. When you're in the underground and you're going to like different people's houses to get weed or whatever, there is like these psychological warfare that everybody uses in this dog-eat-dog world, where they have to make everything like exclusive. Like, you have exclusive access to this, you know this person, you got to stay in the car, you're not allowed to come up, and basically the advantages that they have, they're getting for free, right, from scientists that give out information for free. But they treat it as though it is something that's exclusive. And then they create confusion and division among people, and they create tiers. And they're essentially, most of the communication is nonverbal, lying about their life, right? But then that person has somebody that, that kind of dynamic over them, and they're lying about their life. And then we have, I've noticed it goes out to about 4. Anybody is willing to correct me. I'm doing this in my head. I got this system called Wizard Vision coming out. That's a decentralized blockchain cluster computing hybrid. It's going to show the entire network of all this going on. I call it scientific poetry because it's not mind reading. It's translating vectors into words within the human tensor, so I call it scientific poetry because it's as the system runs, it's going to get more and more and more exact because it discovers motifs and it predicts based on 100% accuracy. I call it collapsing non-absolutes to absolutes. And when it has 100% accuracy, now it can tell you about something that's going on. And as it gathers more data, it gathers social data, it gathers religious data, and the words start becoming more and more like the way people talk. The scientific poetry gets refined more and more also. And so it comes very close to mind reading. But there's still other layers of anomalies that go on because I myself am involved in a lot of like really deep humanitarian stuff that it just doesn't matter if I talk about it. It just looks crazy, but it's based on a lot of data, and there are things that I actually calculate in my head, and I don't think people would actually understand those sentences. And scientific poetry, this Wizard Vision is not going to get those right away. But it's going to keep trying to explain it. It just keeps getting closer and closer and closer. We have to get some things. There's some information traveling that the human tensor. There's information that moves really fast through another dimension, I believe. And this system's being set up to actually discover how information is moving by isolating what it's not and leaving channels open for what it could be until it gets down to 100% accuracy again, right? So it's actually discovering the physics of other dimensions and how information travels through them as it progresses. So it's something a lot of people are going to be interested in for that reason. Also, if not just for the fact it tells you what's going on around your environment with you. If you got some really bad guys coming at you to kill you, this can and will alert you to that before it's too late, and give you a strategy through what I call the scientific poetry area. It can give you a best scenario strategy. So anyhow, I'm kind of went on a tangent here, but I think that this is all important. So thank you for watching this far. It's been 15 minutes and 28 seconds just into this section of it. So then I gotta, splice all these videos together. But that's what I wanted to say, is that so I don't take people to court. I'm not going to take people. I'm not moving my life like that. I'm not. I am going to crush the powers that are responsible for this and expose the people that are responsible for this. And in this, people, they're not afraid. They do not believe that they're going to get caught, and they are not afraid because they have such little faith in what is possible. They are like walking around being corrupt as though they were walking naked in front of everybody. And the problem is that we're not reading the data the best that we can, and that's what Wizard Vision is going to change, is that we're having this massive decentralized network everyone's watching everyone in a legal way, that they have access. They are allowed to record, for their own safety, the environment in front of them. They're allowed to have AI analyze that data, and they're all allowed to share the data together. And then we're going to be able to see, I totally just lost track what I was saying, but we're going to be able to see things are going on levels that we've never been able to before. There's something that goes on. One of the things I'm targeting, the way that I set it up in the system that I'm designing it towards detecting marketing strategies. So if, let's say a company has a marketing strategy and they use a neuroscience and psychology, and there's steps and layers and what is going to happen. First, we're going to do this, we're going to get this effect, and after that effect, then we're going to do this, we're going to get this effect, then we're going to lead them here, draw them here. So these are processes, and you can actually, I see the processes myself by seeing mutations that are deviating from shifting baselines, right? It's a little bit complex, but if I can do it, a giant, massive, decentralized computer network giant brain can do it, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm targeting marketing strategies as my benchmark. If you ever seen the movie called Branded, my world looks a little bit like that. That's the best I've ever seen of anyone ever described what my world looks like. It looks like there's these creatures moving around, so Wizard Vision is going to actually show these creatures through the mutations and the way people are acting and communicating, but there's something else that I see that I'm expecting this to show, is that think of you live inside of you have energy emanating from your body as far as it possibly can go. And when you walk around, you're influencing people in a massive circle around you. And there are people that do this really well. Donald Trump's one of them. Who else is? Elon Musk. Elon Musk's strategy is all about the media. But, there could be more. Donald Trump has a more direct influence over people. I believe that this is why there was this one time he doesn't want to shake your hand. I think that is honesty. I'm not against Donald Trump. I'm not against anyone. I'm not against people, this effect, people doing this. It's just that it can cause problems when people start being influenced and they don't really know that they're being influenced. It's just like someone's taking over, and they're a human being somewhere on the map of the United States or somewhere in the world. but it's like this energy, and it's like all layered on top of each other like a Venn diagram. And they try to collectively, it's like this war going on through people in this psychic universe, collectively trying to repress and express traits that they want to show in the human network. We're all kind of fighting. I fight with these people all the time. All the time. I'm constantly fighting. And it just doesn't stop, because it's just here. It's like, if you want an outcome to be manifested in your environment, you got to go through all of this. It's something that's going to be dramatically different. You got to cut straight through it. And that's why my prayer model is so valuable, because it cuts straight through everything, because you're praying for something like this obelisk that's just going to evolve society, like that movie Space Odyssey 2001, right? It's an idea. It's an idea that's so far away and so different the way things are, but you understand how it's going to get there, and you're praying for it, and God's doing the work all around you, and it is like you can see like heaven opening up. Try to remember what I started this video. Taking people to court. I need to end this video. I just wanted to talk about that. It's like the entire thing, why I don't take people to court, and like what I do instead, and what I think others, should do instead, because we can get a lot further, a lot faster. My prayer model, for one, it's who you're speaking to also. It's like, if you're going to have an outcome with a human being, you can talk to them like as the devil or as Jesus. Think about it like that. When you're talking to a human being, just make it Boolean, because if you make it Boolean, you can get through a lot of chaos really quickly. Imagine you're talking to either the devil or either Jesus, right? And try to talk to Jesus all the time. It's something that I forget about. I get so pissed off at people for unethical behavior. It's just like, I could get through this a lot easier if I would just focus, okay, you're Jesus right now. If they even have good hygiene, they feed themselves, they feed their kids. The devil is not feeding your kids. The devil's not taking care of your kids. The devil's not taking care of you. So they have the Word of God in them. And so if we communicate with the Word of God, we're going to get a lot better outcomes from people. And taking people to court creates kind of like this, formal barriers. It doesn't have to be extremely vicious. It can get vicious. But it's like, I could do something better instead. I can bring them kind of closer to me, and we can be like brothers and sisters. And, we could be real close to each other instead, and taking you to court. And we can express the issues that we're having like a family, right? And then, you're pulling somebody that will, has the potential for that, closer to you for that. And so the problems are going to be solved a lot better. If you take people to court, win or lose, right or wrong, which you can win and be wrong, and then find out later that, I was wrong because there was this whole other dynamic going on. It's not the same outcome. It's not like you're going to be best friends. Like, you took me to court. You sued me for $52 million, dude. That really sucks. I didn't even really have $52 million. I had it, but I didn't have it. I don't want to be friends. And it's like, now we have this division. Now we have a barrier we have to get through. Again, we're going to have to get to that barrier, dude. If you don't want to live in this world with all this division and crap going on, you eventually are going to have to get through that barrier. And so it's just a better. I don't take people to court. It's just a better. There's just so many other things going on that we can have a better strategy than taking people to court. Thanks.